Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Miss Dimple T. Machas. We are here today to present to you our research proposal. Let me just introduce myself and my members. I'm Kyla Ula, and here is Mr. San Diego, Miss Rosal, Miss Camacho, Miss De Vera, and Miss Salinas. Our research proposal entitled Common Stressors, Its Effects to the Senior High School Students. As we all know that everyone experiences common stressor every day. So we want to aim some techniques how to prevent stress. The chapter 1 Problems and its background. Introduction. Stressors are events or conditions in your surrounding that may trigger stress. Stress is the body reaction to any change that requires an adjustment or response. The body reacts to these changes with physical, mental, and emotional responses. Stress is a normal part of life. Even positive life changes, such as a promotion, a mortgage, or the birth of child, produce stress. Stress can affect how you feel, how you think, and how you behave, and how your body works. Sleeping problems, sweatings, loss of appetite, and difficulty concentrating are the common signs of stress. Stress came from many sources, which are known as stressful because of what our experience of what is considered stressful. It is created by our own unique perception of what we encountered in life. And also, stress is a part of human being. A lot of people suffering stress, and we want to help people to address stress. For me, it is so easy to address stress because this research helped me to know the signs and techniques of being stressed. Mr. San Diego, who will be the next, who will discuss background of the study.
Thank you, Miss Ulat. Background of the study. Student aren't just a student who will simply go to school, attempt their goals immediately, and be the cherished student as they can be. We are also dealing with problems and stress every day. The students have been facing different kinds of stressor in school too. On the contrary, there are lots of stressors they are struggling with, like taking a test, fear of being a failure, family problems, doing difficult tasks, and passing them on the same due date. It is important to know the different kinds of stressor so that the student may avoid them. Thus, doing this may help others to know the disadvantage of being so stressed in school. Background of the study. Based upon experience, the said common stressor cause a loss of interest in school, personal habits, and adds mental breakdown, absence communication with parents, or even the whole family of the student, and the fail pamper oneself. It is important to know the different kinds of stressor so that the student may avoid them. Thus, doing this may help others to know the disadvantage of being stressed, especially the senior high school student are the target to read this research so that they may enlighten why they're stressed out. Ms. Camacho, who will discuss the statement of the problem.
Thank you, Mr. Sancheco. Statement of the problems of this study is to give further information and educate ourselves and the readers on how stress affects mental function and performance. How can one person overcome the stressors? What are the common problems that students face nowadays? Does stress affect your academic in school?
Here in statement of the problem, we think very careful of our questions because some of people is uncomfortable with doing a survey. For statement of the problem, we use this because we want to know some common stressors that they experience and what they do when they're stressed. Ms. De Vera, who will discuss the objective.
Ms. Camacho. Objective. Our objectives are to recognize the cognitive components of the stress, especially the effects of one's automatic thoughts. To identify the factor causing stress among the students and to learn various relaxation methods to reduce muscle tension of stress. Because we want to help the people suffering stress, we all know that it is so hard to have stress, and we want to solve it by doing this research because it is so very important to prevent the stress. Some people think suicide, and we don't want to think that thought, and also to prevent the suicidal thought. Ms. Rizal, who will be the next discuss significance of the study.
The first one is school administrator. This study will give school administrator insights into common stressors and how it impacts them to take appropriate steps for senior high school students. In addition, the findings of this study have enabled school administrators to plan and implement activities to address the stressors experienced by senior high school students. Teacher. This study will help them to understand what the senior high school students are going through by consider limiting their requirements, performance, and assigned tasks. They should also ensure that when giving the requirements, students are not struggling to catch up with the other subject. Students, on the opposite within themselves, the learners will slowly establish harmony and calmness within themselves. Parents, as one of the stakeholders, the parents will slowly start to understand the perspective of their children and distinguish what they are going through. And also, parents should talk to their children every day, and parents should also have a band of their children. Future researcher. This study may also assist them along with enhancing their knowledge related to their research. Ms. Salinas will be the next one who will discuss scope, limitations, and delimitation.
Thank you, Ms. Rizal. Scope, limitation, and delimitation. This study covers only the common stressor affecting senior high school students and effects on them. Furthermore, it is only limited to 100 respondents from grade 11 students of Malacity Agno Valley College. This research is done the Google Form. Google Form is an application that is a survey administration software included as part of the free. We use this Google Form because we're experienced pandemic, so that this is the method that we use. Ms. Kyla Ulat, who will discuss theoretical framework. Thank you, Ms. Salinas. Theoretical framework. According to Trevor J. Powell and Simon J. Enright, this book has been written primarily as a practical guide for health professionals working with clients experiencing anxiety and stress-related problems. The authors hope that health workers may wish to use these explanations and techniques presented to help clarify their own ideas on anxiety and stress, and also it serves as a guide for the health professional for their clients having anxiety and stress-related problems. The researchers can gather information and more knowledge about the stressor and on how to address it. In this book, it's so nice to have that positive thoughts that they write and the some techniques how to prevent stress. This book is proven by authorities. Lastly, the main idea of this book is to help the people who suffering stress.
Thank you, Ms. Ulat. Conceptual framework. Our conceptual framework input also the common problems of the students, effects on performance in school, a stress problem and its effect. Our process and questionnaire survey through Google Form. Our output are students overcoming their stress and sources of stress, students' poor performance. In conceptual framework, We choose that because we want to know the problems of some students and its effect of them. And we know after the survey, we all know the problems and its effect of them. Miss Rosal, who will discuss the definition of term.
Thank you, Ms. Camacho. Definition of terms. The first one is stressor. It is a numerous problem that is encountered by students. Common. What the students often observe and encounter. Common stressors. Problems that are observed and are often experienced by the students. Senior high school. It is a secondary school that students attend in 2 grades before college. Senior high school students. It is a student who is part of the senior high school program and is either an 11th or 12th grade student. Mr. Santiago will be the next one who will discuss foreign literature.
Before we proceed to next topic, we will give you an activity, but it will consume only in 30 seconds. How many animals can you see? The answer is... Thank you for participating. Let's proceed to our next topic.
Next one is Chapter 2. Chapter 2, it shows different findings, result, and answer that based on foreign literature, foreign studies, local literature, and local studies. First one is foreign literature. This article entitled The Impact of Stressor on a Student in Secondary High School Higher Education was written by Michaela Pascu and Sarah Hetrick. According to them, the student faced a wide range of ongoing normative stressors, which can be defined as normal day-to-day hassles such as ongoing academic demands. Accordingly, students commonly self-report experiencing ongoing stress relating to their education, which we refers to as academic stressor such as pressure to achieve high marks and concern about receiving poor grades. Miss Ulat, who will discuss the foreign studies.
Thank you, Mr. Santiago. According to them, that stress is now understood as a lifetime crisis affecting any individual regardless of their developmental stage. The only task of students were expected to undertake was to study, and studying was never perceived as stressful. What proved to be stressful was the expectation of some parents had for their children, which is turned grow into larger burdens that these children not to carry anymore. According to the statistic published by National Crime Records Bureau, there is one student every hour that commits suicide. The Bureau registered 1.8% students who committed suicide due to failing examination, and an 80% rise in suicide rates during a 1-year time frame. Suicidal is not solution of the problem. We try our best to prevent that habit because mostly of our generation, they think that suicidal is the solution of their problem. So we want to stop that thought. Miss Camacho, who will be the next who will discuss local literature?
Thank you, Miss Ulat. Local literature. This article entitled Causes Effect of Stress and the Coping Mechanism of the Bachelor of Science in Information Technology, Students in a Philippine University, was written by Generoso and Mazo. People from all walks of life regardless of age, gender, civil status, political affiliation, religious belief, economic status, and profession. Affects decision makers such as the politician, the manager, the price of pastor, the employee, the housewife, the student, the out-of-school youths, the driver, and even the jobless and intelligent he may be. Every person will be challenged at times by frustration, success, changes, and conflict. Miss Salinas, who will discuss the local studies.
Thank you, Ms. Camacho. Local Studies. Salvacion 2004 studied that the most experience of stress are exam and grades, fully loaded days, difficulty in completing clinical requirements, and fear of getting delayed top the identified stressors. No significant differences in ranking were observed between genders. Common methods of coping with stress were employed by students, which include crying, praying, talking, watching movies, and listening to music. Here in local studies, they know or learn some techniques how to prevent stress and the common problems that they encountered. Ms. Rosal, who will discuss synthesis.
Thank you, Ms. Salinas. Synthesis. Additional to it is important to know a person who's suffering stress, to help and to give his or her a better life. Ms. Ulat will be the next one who will discuss research environment.
Before we proceed to next topic, we will give you an activity, but it will consume only in 30 seconds. Thank you again for participating. Let's proceed to our next topic. Research environment. This study covers grade 11 senior high school students of Malasiki Agno Valley College of Malasiki, Pangasinan, who are experiencing common stressors caused by various exercises that are often encountered mostly every day. Since we're experiencing pandemic, we use Messenger to communicate in the grade 11 senior high school students and Google Form to answer the questionnaire that we made. Miss Salinas, who will be the next, who will discuss research design.
Thank you, Ms. Kyla Ulat. Research design. The scripted design is the research design used in the study. The scripted approach is a study design that describes the characteristic of the population or phenomenon that is being studied. We choose this scripted design because it describes the present status and to create a snapshot of the current state of affairs, provide a relative complete picture of what is occurring at a given time, allows the development of questions for further study. Ms. Kyla Ulat, who will discuss respondent of the study.
Respondents of the study. Our respondents of our study are the grade 11 senior high school students of Malasiki Agno Valley College who are affected in terms of their academic performance and also who were affected by common stressors. Ms. Camacho, who will be the next, who will discuss sampling design.
Sampling design. In giving questionnaires, the researchers use simple random sampling. Each individual is capable to be a respondent, regardless of their gender or age, but it shall be limited to only 100 respondents. All respondents were equally chosen by the researchers. Example. An example of a simple random sample would be the names of 25 employees. being chosen out of a hat from a company of 250 employees in this case. The population is all 250 employees, and the sample is random because each employee has an equal chance of being chosen.
Mr. Sanjego, who will discuss the research instrument.
Thank you, Ms. Camacho. Next one is research instrument. We use survey as a primary tool to collect data and information. Using multiple choice and multiple response question, we gather the answer of the respondents. This is the example of the multiple choice and multiple response. Ms. De Vera, who will discuss the data gathering procedure.
Mr. Sanjego. Data gathering procedure. To get needed data from the respondents, the researcher asks for an approval from the subject teacher, Ms. Dimple T. Machas. Must be taken first to conduct a survey on the said school. After getting a secured permit, the researcher will give background information to the respondents from them to know what is the purpose of conducting the study. The researchers will distribute the questionnaire to the respondents. It is necessary before we get other details from other people, we first need to ask for approval from a higher position. Then, we can provide information to the respondents so that they know what the information we gather is for. Ms. Kyla, who will be the next discuss statistical of the data.
Thank you, Ms. De Vera. Statistical treatment of data. In this research, we use infographic method, especially pie chart, to show the gathered data by the researchers. Pie chart is limited only to 8 categories. We choose pie chart because we want to emphasize proportion of variable per category and to be easy to categorize the percentage. Chapter 4. Analysis, Presentation, and Interpretation of Data. Analysis of data. This chapter states the presentation, analysis, and presentation of data gathered by the researchers through questionnaires. This study aims to determine the good effects of common stressors, its effect to the senior high school students. The table below on the demographic profile of the respondents. Table 1.1. Age range of respondents. In this table, it shows that age range of respondents: 32 whose age range is 16 years old, 61 whose age range is 17 years old, and 8 whose age range is 18 years old. Table 1.2. Gender of respondents. In this table, it shows how many are the male respondents and female respondents. There are 34 male respondents and 66 female respondents. Mr. Sanjego, who will be the next who discuss graph 1 to 3.
Thank you, Ms. Ulat. The graph 1 shows that 84% of the respondents has admitted that they have experienced any of the following stressor: family problems, peer pressure, difficult tasks, taking different quizzes, tests in a day, and 11% says that maybe they experience common stressor. And lastly, 5% of the respondents admitted that they have not experienced any of the above stressor. In graph number 2, shows that 76% of the respondents have found the stress affect their performance in school, while 20% of the respondents are not sure if stress is affected in performance of the school. And lastly, 4% of the respondents admitted that stress didn't affect their performance at school. In graph number 3, shows that among all the problems experienced by the respondent, 47% of the respondents say that all of their effects of performance is they experience. 12% of them says the show learning are the problem, while 25% of the respondents are lack of interest in studying, and lastly 16% of them are low academic performance. Cut muna. Miss Rosal, who will discuss the graph 4 to 6.
Thank you, Mr. Santiago. The graph 4 shows that the most warning sign that they encountered is anxiety with a 34%. The second most warning sign that they encountered is low energy with 33%, while 10% of the respondents says that the insomnia is the warning sign that they encountered. And lastly, 23% admitted that the warning sign that they encountered is headache. The graph 5 shows that the respondents they overcome stress with a 25%, that they spend quality time with their family to overcome stress, while most of them says that 34% of them are spending time on other activities, and lastly 24% had restraint from doing their school, and 17% of them are using internet to overcome stress. The graph 6 shows that most of the respondents are overthinking when they are stressed, with at 42%, while 32% of them are admitted that mental and emotional are they experience when it comes to stress. 23% of them are feel like it's affected by their thoughts and feelings, and lastly, 3% of them are sociological and economical. Miss De Vera will be the next one who will discuss graph 7 to 9.
Ms. Rosal. Graph 7. Problem that faces students. The graph 7 shows that the most problem faces students is stress, brought by doing overload tasks with a 51%, while 22% of the respondents says that the problem faced as students are personal problems, while 18% of them says that they are not able to catch up on the lesson, and lastly 9% of the respondents are slow internet access when it comes to online class. Graph 8. Problem that mostly they encountered nowadays. Graph 8 shows that among all the stressor experienced by the respondents, schoolwork are the most experienced stressor, with a 40%, while 24% of the respondents admitted they have overthinking as an open experience of the stress personal issue with 15%, while misunderstanding between parents and siblings are responded by 9% of the students, and lastly 2% of them that they experience financial problem when it comes to problem. Graph 9. Others common stressor shows that the respondents address stressor through various activities. 7% address stressor through practicing meditation of yoga. 25% had address stress by casing well and exercising regularly. Hanging out with their loved ones and friends with 35% of the respondents. 13% of the respondents to bond with their pet of the respondents would try to get a vacation, and 1% would like to see a therapist or counselor, and lastly 10% of them take a vacation to address stressor. Miss Jamaica, who will be next discuss graph 10 to 12.
Before we proceed to next topic, we will give you again an activity. It will consume 30 seconds only. So, thank you, Miss Dimple T. Matras. I hope that you enjoyed the activity that we presented to you. Thank you for participating and God bless.
Thank you, Ms. De Vera. The graph 10 showed that 27% of them say that the behavioral effect of stress are change in sleep pattern. 18% of the respondents are experiencing change eating habit, while 14% of them say that it is hard to communicate when you are stressed. 15% of them are decreased efficiency and effectiveness, while 11% of the respondents are change in activity levels. 10% of them say that the behavioral effect of stress are periods of crying, and lastly, 5% of them are increased sense of humor. The graph 11 showed that the most emotional effect of stress sadness, with a 26% of the following emotional effect of stress is the feeling misunderstood, with a 19%, while 18% of them say that they experience feeling isolated when they are stressed. 16% of them are feeling irritably when they are stressed. The other respondents say that they are experiencing anxiety or fear when they are stressed, with a 14%, while 45% of them are feeling denial, and lastly 3% of them are vivid or distressing dreams. The graph 12 showed that the most social effect of stress is difficulty sharing ideas, with a 27%, while 21% of them say that the social effect of stress that they experience is difficulty listening. 16% of them are disrespectful to others, while 11% of them are difficult when engaging mutual problem solving, while 13% of them are admitted that they are experiencing difficulty accepting support, while 7% of them are criticizing, and lastly 5% of them are blaming. Ms. Camacho, who will discuss the graph 13 to 15.
Thank you, Ms. Salinas. The graph 13 shows that the most personal method to relieve stress is sleeping, with a 27%, while eating and talking with someone are both 18%. 15% of them says that the method to relieve stress is using social media, while 11% of them are playing sports. 9% of them are playing games. Lastly, 2% of them are shopping. The graph 14 shows that the most pressing stress factors in academic context is study workload, with a 32%, while 27% of them are work and study. 40% of them are in a relationship with faculty members. 6% of them says that the most pressing stress is grade. And lastly, 11% of them are in a relationship with other students. The graph 15 shows that the most physical effect of stress that they notice is headache, with a 46%, while 20% of them are experiencing lower back pain, while 18% of them are feeling uncoordinated. The other respondent says that they experiencing increased heart rate and respiration when they stress, with a 15%. And lastly, 3% of them are experiencing allergies, asthma, or arthritis. Mr. Santiago and Ms. Ulat, who will discuss the chapter 5.
Thank you, Ms. Camacho. Chapter 5, Conclusion. We all know that every one of us has a problem and mental stress. As grade 11 student, we encountered some common stressor that will affect our performance and efficiency. Also for those senior high school student respondents. We respect the reason why they feel stressed. Our goal is to educate them to avoid suicidal thoughts. Ms. Ulat, who will discuss the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Santiago. Our last is recommendation for the teachers. They must consider limiting the requirements, performances, and assigned tasks. They should also see that in giving their students requirements, the students would not struggling catching up with the other subject. For the students, they should not take seriously because it can affect their mental health. For the parents, one of the ways to help their children in overcoming all this is that they could always encourage and support them with their needs. And for the future researchers, I recommend them to analyze the significance and benefits of the research related to our research for them to create a survey that will fit perfectly with the topic. In our recommendation, we choose this because this is the main people that we all know that it will help for us to prevent common stressors and as a guide for us so that they will know the some problems and techniques to experience as the students. So this is the final of our research. Thank you for listening and God bless.